Well, good afternoon, everybody. I hope by now everybody is joined in to Knollwood's second episode of Inside Out, helping you get to know Knollwood. And this episode is about the deeper financial aspects of living at Knollwood. I'm Caroline McCormick. I'm rather new to Knollwood, but I am not new to working in communities like Knollwood nationwide for many, many years. And with me is Helen Cahill. And Helen has been here at Knollwood for more than 6 years, so she's definitely a Knollwood expert by now. Many of you may have spoken or even met with Helen in the past.
Yeah, probably. There's a good chance.
So welcome. What we're going to ask is we're going to have questions at the end. There are 3 rather critical, tricky slides where we, on these 3 slides, which we'll note later, where we may take questions while we're actually on that slide. Okay. But we're going to wait until we get to that point. We'll remind you that that is a slide that we'll take questions on during the slide, and the other questions we'll ask at the end, ask and answer.
Yep.
There's a little chat icon. Usually it's on the bottom of the screen. And when you press on that, you can actually key in or type in your question. And the question will be collected and we'll be able to look at them at the appropriate time.
Yep, absolutely.
So, and also don't forget, please remember, if you ever have a question, you're wondering how to reach Helen or I again, you lose our phone number, knollwoodcommunity.org. So we're going to start. We're on our first slide here already, and Helen is going to give you a little overview about Knollwood.
Yep, just a quick little rundown. Some of you might have joined us for our first webinar, but for those of you who are new, welcome. So just a little bit about us. We are a life plan community. Knollwood is a nonprofit, and we are in Northwest DC. On the next slide, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what a life plan community is, just in case we have some new people here. So there's one big thing that makes a life plan community, and that's having independent living as well as skilled nursing. Now, some communities have other levels of care in between, and Knollwood happens to be one of those communities. We have assisted living, and under our skilled nursing umbrella, we offer rehab, long-term care, and memory care. We are a type C community, which means any health services you need in the future are a la carte. And that's one of the big differentiators between type C and type A and B, right, Caroline?
Yes, because if you're in a type C community like Knollwood, you would only pay for health care if and when you need it. But at the A and B types, that cost is woven into your price for independent living.
Right. So as we move to the next slide, we are going to talk about pricing, and Caroline is going to start us off with that.
So many of you already know that there are 2 prices associated with living in Knollwood, the entry fee and the monthly fee. So the entry fee is what we call our purchase price. And it gives you the things that your house cannot give you. Okay? So perhaps in the future you might need guaranteed care at Knollwood Skilled Nursing. If you're living in your house, you don't know where you might get care if you ever need it. And Knollwood has 5-star skilled nursing, as well as we're also listed as the best of the best with US News and World Report for care here. And maybe you think, well, I might not ever need skilled nursing care. Well, the entry fee also is going to guarantee you access. Anybody need a hip or a knee replacement? So if you're living here, it would guarantee that your knee or hip rehab would occur right here at Knollwood. So the entry fee really offers you all the benefits of buying a house without the liability. And I think another key thing with the entry fee is it really alleviates fear for many people about outliving their funds or about having their family have to help them out later if their finances run short. And you're going to learn more about this later. The monthly fee at Knollwood covers the things that you might get multiple statements from in your house or condo. Maybe you get the utility bills in your inbox and you're real estate tax statement in your mailbox, and then you have a cable bill, and then you have to pay to put on a new roof. Everything at Knollwood almost everything is included in your monthly fee. Even things that I would appreciate, like window washing or a deep annual cleaning. Now, next slide might put you into a little bit of shock, because it's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to ever read all that on this one screen? We don't want you to. We don't expect you to. We could, in fact, send you this sheet if you don't have it. But what I wanted to show you is that you're going to get a lot of information today. Each row of this pricing sheet is for one apartment home. And the columns that are headed by the white boxes are the pricing plans. So every apartment home has a choice of 3 different pricing plans. And what we do, we're going to explain all these components and the calculations for 3 of the apartments, but you could apply what you're going to learn today to anything on that big sheet.
Okay, on the next slide, I'm just going to talk a little bit about those entry fee plans that Caroline just mentioned. So we do have 3 options, and what is great is, again, depending on what your situation is, you've got the choice. So the first is the standard option, which is always going to be the lowest. One thing that is great about all of these entry fee plans is they all offer refunds, which we are going to talk about a little bit later. But with the standard option, it is a shorter time frame that you have the opportunity to get that money refunded. With the 45% and the 90% refundable options, you put more in up front, but you get more back at the end. So
yeah,
go ahead.
All right, I'll go ahead. So I think one of the takeaways from this slide is think about some of your entry fee amortizes to become Knollwoods.
Yep.
And the amount and time frame for the amortization are unique to each plan.
Yes, and that is something that Caroline is going to dig into a couple slides from now, and that is when we will also give you the opportunity to ask questions, because it can be a little bit confusing. But first, let's go to the next slide and just look at a couple examples. So on this table, we have the different entry fee options for 3 of our most popular floor plans. And all of these are for a single occupant. So if you see at the bottom of the table, there is that note. For 2 occupants, we do add an additional $15,000 onto the entry fee price. We really wanted to lay this out so that you can see on the table the difference. Again, going back to the more you put in, the more refund, the more you get back. But as we move on to the next slide, Caroline is going to just expand upon that refundability we were talking about.
Now on this table again, it's another big table. What I'm going to do is we're going to break this table down. So this example that we're going to use for the refunds is all about the 2-bedroom price point, one particular one actually. There are many 2-bedroom price points, but for all of our examples today, we're going to use the same 2-bedroom apartment example pricing. And I do want to make an important note that the refunds for any entry fee plan at Knollwood are after you leave the community.
Yes, good point.
So you can live here as long as you wish, even beyond the period of any type of amortization. But you will know, what your refund is by listening to our presentation today. So this chart lays out the 3 different refund plans on one page. But now let's go to the next page, and we're going to look at the standard plan first. Now this plan, if you have a question on this page, then we're going to have you ask that question on this page, and we're going to answer it while we're still on this page. But first, let me explain it. So again, this is a 2-bedroom price point. We have the 1-person price point listed on there. And it wouldn't matter if you didn't like this 1-bedroom and you had a different, this is a 2-bedroom. It wouldn't matter if you didn't choose this 2-bedroom, but any apartment you chose, the calculations would be managed the same way. Okay. So the standard plan amortizes your entry fee to Knollwood over 36 months. So you can see the bottom row of the chart. At the end of 36 months, there is no refund to you or your estate. Any time during that 36 months, there is a certain amount that would go to you or your estate. So for example, 1 month of amortization is just over $6,500 per month. So in 10 months, you would have 10 times that 6,500 plus. So if after 10 months you decided that it was too humid in DC and you thought you wanted to go to Arizona to the desert, you would receive back $171,000 plus dollars. Now 11 months, you would receive back over $164,000. We did the 11 month and the 10 because we wanted to show you a good comparison with the 45% plan.
Yeah, it really comes into effect with that 45% refund option. Mm-hmm.
And the 1 month comes into effect to compare to the 90% refund plan.
Yep.
So that's why we didn't just randomly choose 1 month and 11.
Yeah.
We did randomly choose 10, just to show you that any month there's a refund amount.
Yeah.
Now, if you decided to live here for 147 months, maybe you decided to stay for 17 years, you can live here as long as you wish. Yeah. It's just that after 36 months, you would not get a refund to take with you to Arizona, or your estate would not get a refund if you lived out your life. Okay. Now, should we look and see if we have any questions?
Yes, let me check and see if anyone has any questions before we move on to the next slide.
Anything on the chat? There is a question.
Oh, right.
Is it about this slide or about a different one?
Okay, these are great questions, but I think these are ones that we can come back to towards the end. It's about property taxes and also insurance, which I know we have a slide for it.
Okay, we will come back to those questions at the end, and now we're going to move on to the second refund example. Now this page, which needs to move forward one to the 45% refund plan. So you can see, still we're looking at 2 columns, but instead of looking at the standard refund, we're now going to explore the 45% refundable. We are still using that same 2-bedroom apartment home price point here, but it's different because this is the 45% refund option plan. So that same apartment has a different price point for this plan. Now the 45% refund means that over some period of time, which happens to be 11 months, as noted in the second to the last row on your chart, that this is an 11-month amortization plan, and 55% of what you paid in becomes Knollwood's over 11 months. So at the end of 11 months, if you chose to leave Knollwood, you would have a refund of just over $194,000. If you were here for 12 months, it would be a little bit less, and so on. And if you, I shouldn't say that, if you were here for 12 months, your refund would be exactly the same. I'm confusing people.
It's okay. See, we said that it's confusing, even for us sometimes.
No matter how long that you're here beyond 11 months, your refund is capped.
Yep, exactly.
So you could take a dart, throw it at a calendar any day in the future, and know the value of your entry fee.
Yeah.
Now I got a question for all of you. Can you do that with your house? Can you throw a dart at a future calendar date and tell me what the price would be that you would receive for selling your condo or house? Yeah. So this is a great, entry fees are a great resource for financial planning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything else I should say?
No, but let me just double check.
And see if there's questions.
See if there's any questions on this slide. Okay, we'll keep it moving.
All right, we're going to go to the third entry fee refund plan. And this is a 90% refundable plan. Now remember, we're still using that same 2-bedroom apartment home. It has a higher price point for the 90% refund. And remember that refunds occur when you're no longer here. So we're showing you a comparison of what the amortization would be for the first month. Because with this plan, once you take possession, your entry fee amortizes right during that first month. And it amortizes at an amount just over 62,000, actually closer to 63. And it stays. So you would have the same refund amount whether you were here 2 months, 10 months, 11 months, 36 months, 18 years. So it amortizes 10% off the top and then holds there for you. So no matter how long you live here, your refund is going to be static at 90% of whatever you put in. So now, are there any questions on this plan for us to have?
I think we actually just have one come in, so let's see. What do you mean by amortize? So maybe we can kind of clarify what exactly that is.
Sure. So let's just use this apartment as an example, okay? So amortize means it becomes Knollwood. So if you paid, and this apartment home is over $627,000, and 10% of that is $62,735. So when your entry fee amortizes, it means some portion of it becomes Knollwood. So any amortization is shifting from something you would get back to something Knollwood keeps. And Knollwood uses those funds for things like capital improvements. Like I know we're getting new elevators because they only last a certain number of years. You're not going to get a special assessment to cover new elevators because the funds that come in from entry fees that Knollwood keeps are used for things like paving, new gutters, gutter cleaning. I mean, anything that's a capital expense, we can use that money so the community is self-sustaining. And I hope that answered that question. That was a great question, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So now I think we will go to the next slide. And of course, you probably want to know about monthly fees.
Yes. So one question that I know I've gotten a lot when I've met with people is, does the monthly fee change depending upon which entry fee option you choose? And the answer is no. The monthly fee is tied to the size of the unit. It doesn't change if you put more money in up front or less. The only time it changes is if it's a couple in an apartment versus a single person, and that's shown here on this table. You can see whether it's the standard option, 45% refund option, or 90% refund option. It's the same for the same size unit. All right.
Now, but when does the monthly fee go up, Helen?
Good question. So typically the monthly fee goes up at the start of a new year. What is wonderful is we're not just going to spring that on you, of course. We're going to give you a heads up as a resident here about that and what that would be. And if you are on our wait list, we let you know too. So it's kind of a good reason to get on there. Maybe you want to get a deal and sneak in right before the end of the year and lock those rates in. All right.
Well, the monthly fee doesn't lock in.
Right.
Just the entry.
Just the entry fee. Yep.
Your monthly fee would change every January.
Yep.
And also, I think we gave you a big chart here to show you that the monthly fees are the same for every apartment home, no matter which plan you take.
Yep, exactly.
However, we have many other price points for other apartment homes that were on that big chart. And in fact, you could actually just look at the first two columns of this chart and you could ignore the rest. We just wanted to show you how the monthly fee is not impacted by your refund plan.
Yep. On the next slide, I just want to talk a little bit more about what is included. What is that monthly fee for? So as Carolyn mentioned earlier in the webinar, when you're in your home or your condo, you have a slew of different bills coming in from all different directions. And your monthly service charge here, that's basically all rolled up into one for the most part. There are some things that are not included, which I will touch on shortly. But your taxes, one thing that's really great, the warranty, home warranty. So we maintain all of your appliances. So you have that peace of mind if something breaks down, let's say your washing machine ends up failing. That money is not going to come out of your pocket. We are going to take care of it. And that's part of what your monthly fee is going towards. Of course, all of your utilities are included, which is huge, as well as cable, internet, and that landline phone. And Caroline did mention that deep cleaning, which is annual, but we also have a weekly housekeeping, which is really nice as well. So on the next slide, I'm just going to talk about some of those things that are not included. So the big thing here is dining, and this was a really intentional decision. We have some residents who love to cook, they want to entertain and have people over, but we also have people who come here and say, I am so tired of cooking, I just want to take advantage of the bistro. Well, we don't include dining because we want it to be the resident's option. And that's what it's all about. Of course, things like your cell phone, that's not going to be included. But
What about things like special assessments,
yes,
title,
right,
title searches, or
right.
thinking like attorney fees?
Right, good question. So luckily for our residents here, none of that is put on their backs. So when we have things like a special assessment, if we need a new roof as an example, we are not going to surprise the residents with an added fee that year. Thank goodness. They have that peace of mind that it's consistent. They know the only things that may be additional are going to be the dining charges, which they get an updated bill every time they eat, or things like if they take advantage of happy hour and go order a drink down at the bar. But it's very easy for them to keep track of some of those small outside additional expenses. Okay, so a topic that is frequently brought up, as someone did in the questions, is insurance. How does that come into play? So on the next slide, Caroline is going to touch on that.
So people have all different sorts of insurance, and you already have one or some of the insurance types on the list. Maybe you have TRICARE for Life, or maybe you have AARP Medigap, but you have different types of insurance already, and your health insurance is going to be used when you live here the same as you use it where you live now. So with your health insurance, which you would include TRICARE for Life or Medicare or TRICARE Prime, whatever you have, AARP, you're going to use that when you go to the dentist, when you go to the eye doctor, when you refill a prescription, if you went to the hospital and they had knee surgery. That all stays the same. It's not, you're coming here to live when you're healthy, and you're moving to independent living. So you're not getting health care here at Knollwood. You're going to still have your doctor, or we do have a practice on site here. That's your option. So you're going to keep your cards in your wallet or your purse just like you do now. Medicaid is a little bit of a different type of insurance, and it's for people who have financial difficulty. It's more equivalent to a welfare payment, but it's the insurance side. Okay. So if somebody does not have a health insurance and they have limited income and assets, then Medicaid will help them for things like doctor's appointments, the dentist, what we just spoke about. Now, if you're living here and you do have a knee replacement, you might be suggested that you have outpatient or inpatient rehab. You can receive that here at Knollwood at the 5-star place because you live here, and your Medicare would cover that. So Medicare also covers, and so does TRICARE for Life and some different HMOs, rehab, either outpatient or inpatient rehab, and that is available here. So you might use your health insurance for something like that. Medicaid, if you were to come here to live and you outlived your funds, you might at that point apply to Medicaid, but you would already be in the skilled nursing center to utilize that. Okay, if you were in assisted living, we would have our financial assistance fund to help you out. Long-term care insurance is the third component here. And the fourth component really, long-term care insurance is not going to apply for independent living because you're not receiving care. You're still managing your life, you're in charge, you do not need care components. It might help you out if you have that type of policy were you to, after living here for a number of years, need assisted living or long-term care that's not temporary rehab, or maybe nursing memory care, assisted living memory care, or home care. So that might come into play if you have a policy later on when you need care and they reimburse you. It's not, does Knollwood accept my long-term care? It's, do you meet the requirements of the policy you bought and then you file claims. We are planning some upcoming workshops. They will be very small group where you actually bring your long-term care insurance policy for policyholders. We don't know dates yet, but watch for those as well. We will invite you if you have a policy. And if you do have a policy, send Helen or I an email message. We'll put you on our list when we start those workshops. And they will be COVID safe.
Yes, 100%.
Yes. So the next slide, we start getting into the financial eligibility of living in Knollwood, which many of you probably want to know. So now you know a little bit about pricing and refunds. But how do I know if I can, meet the criteria for Knollwood? Well, we do have criteria, and it is based on age and gender, which gives us each individual's actuarial life expectancy. So every person who is here today in our webinar is going to have probably a different actuarial life expectancy and a different set of financial circumstances. So no two people's financial criteria is pretty much the same. Everyone's litmus test will vary. It also is going to vary because some person might have this much in assets and this much in income, and someone else might have this much in income and this much in assets. Okay? So, the important thing to know is you could actually look up online your own actuarial life expectancy and then look at your assets and income and see how long is it projected they would last at a given expense rate. And that's what Knollwood does. We look at your age, your gender, and the financial information that you give us. And we say, okay, is this person's finances likely to sustain them to cover their entry fee and their first 5 years of independent living? Yeah. And if the answer is yes, then that's a likely candidate for Knollwood. Yeah. And the reason we look at the 5-year benchmark is because we do help people out who outlive their resources, but we can't help everybody out or we would no longer be in existence as a community. So on the next slide, we look at the assets that we consider and the income that we considered. So, and it's important to note that when you do a financial review with us, it's confidential and it's self-reported.
Yes.
So we don't do a credit check. We don't do a background check. There's no invasion of privacy. It's not going to change your credit rating because we looked.
Right.
And keep in mind that you may have some unique asset or different income that's not on the list here, and we have a category for other. So example, maybe you have loan receipts coming in as income. You might put something like that in the other category. And then the last step of financial eligibility is on the next slide. And here we do consider liabilities. Now, many people who've, you may have already paid off your mortgage. And for credit card, we look at debt. We don't look at what was due from last month that you pay every month, but we look at, okay, do you have a big lump sum that you're paying off? Then it would be a liability. If it's just your recent statement and you pay it off every month, that is not a liability. So now Helen's going to talk to us about the safety net that you have at Knollwood should you ever outlive your funds.
Yeah. So as we move on to the next slide, as Carol Ann said, I'm going to talk about that safety net. So Knollwood, the community here, is owned and funded by the Army Dispatch Foundation. And as I said on that first slide, we are a nonprofit. So people who move here have the peace of mind that if they run out of money, if they outlive their funds, they will still have a roof over their head. They're not going to be kicked to the curb. And our development team does a lot of fundraising every year to help support those individuals who are here under financial assistance. That is also something that's kept confidential. So, you know, that's the resident's business, and it's only the resident and our finance team who really know about that. Some people can come in initially under financial assistance, but we have a very strict criteria on that. And as Carol Ann said, you know, we are philanthropic, we are a nonprofit, we do want to help people, but there has to be some boundaries so we can continue to run this wonderful community that we have here. Anything else that I missed or that we should add?
I just think it's important for people to know that, you know, it's not often that people outlive their funds. There's typically 1 or 2 people who have trouble a year, and they may still be contributing because they're probably still getting a Social Security or a pension. But no, it is helping out with making ends meet, right? So you don't have to look for somewhere else to live. You don't have to, you know, go live with your family, and we're not going to be calling on your children to help pay your bills. So that's, I think, very much a big comfort for people. And I kind of, one of the ways that sometimes the foundation gets money is some people actually do leave in their will some monies to the foundation, which I think is very nice, either from their refund of their entry fee or just out of their other assets.
Yeah, that's great. So as we move on to the next slide, I think we're going to start to unwind, but we want to get to all those questions before we finish up. Of course, we can't forget to mention again, if you want more information about Knollwood, if you need to get in touch with us and don't have our number, don't forget to go to knollwoodcommunity.org, okay? And if you think it's all right, I'm going to go look at those questions.
While you're looking at the questions, everybody who's here on the webinar, if you're interested in the next webinar that we're hosting, it's going to be 2 weeks from today at 3 p.m. I believe that's June 14th.
Wow.
No, today's the 2nd.
Yes. Oh
it's
my
the
gosh.
16th.
Wow.
June 16th at 3 p.m.
Time is flying by.
We'll send you an invitation. And the topic of that one is the waiting list at Knollwood. So that's where you'll learn that good information about Knollwood's waiting list.
Okay, so we've got a couple questions from one person initially. So I'm just gonna, maybe we can just go down the line and then go through. So her first question is, do you pay DC property taxes when you live at Knollwood? So I think that's something we kind of talked about. That is rolled up as part of your monthly service fee, which is great.
Yes, you won't get a tax bill.
Yep.
It's included in your monthly service here.
Exactly. Oops. Oh, perfect. Great. So what are the odds of being able to get into nursing or memory care at Knollwood without having lived in independent living?
Small.
Yes, and I think this is something we'll probably talk more about in our next webinar about getting on the wait list and kind of why that's important, and it's important to come into independent living.
Yes.
We'll expand more on that.
Yeah, it's not too often that we have openings. We have a small assisted living and small skilled nursing. It's intended to be the right size for the people who live here. If we have an opening that is not going to take away from a resident, you know, we have to consider when is that next hip surgery scheduled. Then you might get in if the stars align. We have as a second tier, people who are on our waiting list would have priority over people who are not.
Yeah.
So don't wait till you have needs.
Okay, so, this is a good one that I don't think we talked about, but When you move from independent living to assisted living or a higher level of care, does your monthly fee increase?
Yes, you're definitely going to be paying more when you need care than if you didn't. And it's really going to depend on how much that increase is, on how much you were paying to begin with, versus whether you're in assisted living or skilled nursing.
Exactly.
So it will change.
Yep. It just depends on the level, and at the higher levels of care, you're paying more because you're getting more care. All right. Do you have to pay the entry fee all at once?
Sort of, not really. You pay it before you come here to live, typically in full, but it's usually paid in parts. Like you pay an amount when you get on the waiting list. Then once you actually say, I'd like to take that apartment home and I know I'm going to take possession in 70 days, then you pay a little bit of a bigger chunk. But the bulk of the balance due is when you're taking possession. Sometimes the possession date doesn't line up with somebody's closing date of their condo or their house. So, for example, we have someone moving in on Friday who is going to be paying her balance due next week
Yeah.
instead of this week. So, we have been working with so many people here. We know what it's like to be selling a house or having to move money if you don't have something to sell. So we work with you.
Yep. Okay. Do you have any meal plans? We don't. We do not have any meal plans. I guess I didn't.
It's sort of like your own plan.
Yeah, I guess I didn't mention one thing that is really great is all of our food is very affordable. It's low cost. And part of that has to do with the fact that we do have people here who are on financial assistance, who have limited income, and we want to make sure that it's affordable for them to eat as well.
Can I say what I had for lunch and how much it cost me?
Yeah, absolutely, please.
So my lunch today was, I have a soft spot for comfort food, especially right now with COVID and everything going on. So I had pasta bolognese for lunch and 2 veggie side dishes. And I skipped a beverage, but I could have had one. And I got chocolate cake for dessert, which I didn't have yet, and watermelon mint soup, which I'm saving for tomorrow, for like $4.40.
Yes. And Carol Ann and I actually have to pay more than the residents because we have to pay sales tax. So that's the higher price. I think that should tell you a lot. If you guys want a little bit more information, we're always happy to send a sample menu, and it shows you the different.
We could Zoom them to the dining room one day.
Yeah, absolutely, if you wanted to do that as well. I see that someone did mention they had a question about vegetarian options. So we have a ton of options, not just a single vegetarian option, but a huge menu with different lunch specials, different dinner specials, different weekly vegetarian specials.
You might also just be like vegan or gluten-free or diabetic or pre-diabetic.
Yes.
You have to pick healthy.
Yes, and we do have a huge, we can work with almost any, whether you're vegetarian, vegan, if you have a gluten intolerance. The only thing we can't do is we're not kosher. We don't have a kosher kitchen, sorry.
How are we doing on time?
I think we're around 3:40, so we're just gonna wrap up these last couple questions. I think we're doing okay. Yeah. What do you do for food when you are in assisted living or memory care? So part of the higher monthly rate for assisted living is meals are included. Same thing with skilled nursing. So it's not pay as you go like it is with independent living. You can still go to the bistro and enjoy meals there, but that is rolled up into that cost.
And you're going to find that at any assisted living or skilled nursing. No matter what state you live in or what district, dining has to be included for assisted living and skilled nursing because you're there because you're not independent anymore. So if you're not independent, cooking could be a challenge, shopping could be a challenge. You might not be able to get to the store. Even managing your finances is going to be a challenge. So when people are having, daily challenges, then dining has to be included by law.
So another question was the fees for those higher levels of care.
What are they?
Yeah, what are they?
Okay. Well, they change every year too. With skilled nursing, you're going to be looking at $452 a day.
Yep.
And that's not high. So if you're gasping, that means that you haven't probably really looked at the cost of care.
Yeah.
It's kind of waffling around the middle. Assisted living, again, it's going to depend on the size of apartment you have and the amount of care, help, or service you need. But you're going to be looking at $7,700 a month.
Okay. All right. So this is not totally finance related, but a good question nonetheless. Do you need a physical exam to enter Knollwood? So I think we might have talked about this. I'm not sure if we did on the last webinar, but it is something that we do talk about when you come and meet with us. Part of the process, the move-in process, a big piece before you move in is the medical interview. So we send you a small packet, you take it to your doctor, physical, a little medical history, maybe some extra lab work, and then you come in and you meet with our RN, who is the main kind of point of contact for our independent living residents and care stuff. And she does a semi-casual interview, and she just gets to know you. What are your care needs? What's going on with you currently?
And if you have care needs, we wouldn't probably be setting up that interview for independent living.
Yeah.
But she wants to get to know you. I mean, maybe you're someone who had a heart attack 20 years ago. That's not going to rule you out.
Right.
But it's good for, because we do have a nurse here that could help out in an emergency.
Yeah.
And so it's important. And the health review has to come within 4 months of you living here, because it has to be an accurate picture. So it's not something you can do now and then say, oh, I'll do that now and I'll be, get in later. But it has to be within 4 months of you moving in, so that we know it's an accurate picture that you're still in charge, still managing your own life.
Yeah, it's important. We want to set you up for success when you come in, so we want to make sure you are truly independent. Okay, I guess it would be helpful if we just did one more time over the higher levels of care. I think some people couldn't hear us. So the cost of assisted living and memory care, just one more time.
Sure. For assisted living, you're going to be looking at about $7,700 a month. $7,700. Skilled nursing is, you're always going to see it charged on a daily basis. And here that is $452 a day. So it's not cheap when you have to get care. You're going to face the same or higher prices out in other places as well. So.
Yep. Is there another restaurant option besides the bistro?
Well, we have our Caraway dining room. We have the bistro. Those are the options here. Right now, everything is either carry out or delivery because of what's happening with COVID. We are, and outdoor dining, weather dependent here, because the mayor now allows outdoor dining.
Yep.
So those are our options right now.
Yeah. Will there be a session on severely disabled war veterans with benefits?
I've actually worked with the Veterans Association before and presented information on aid and attendance is a benefit that veterans who have disabilities, it's not necessarily even disabilities, it could be declining health. However, there is an income and asset limitation to receive that. But it's something we could possibly think about doing here as one of our webinars. I hadn't really thought about that yet, but that's a possibility.
Yeah.
So great idea. Thank you for that. Yes.
Yeah. I think that's it.
Yeah. So don't forget, we hope you come to the next webinar.
2 weeks from today.
Yes, 2 weeks from today, 3 o'clock, same time, same place. There'll be a different code or different login for Zoom. So when you RSVP, the code is within the link is within the RSVP. If you don't save it, you can actually always go back to the Knollwood homepage. It might seem like you're re-registering, but it's just giving you the same code, even though you already registered, so you could re-register. And that will get you in and show you the link. And if you need more information than this presentation was able to give you, we hope that you go back to knollwoodcommunity.org and then reach out to Helen or I through that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for coming, and we'll see you next time. And I'm just gonna close this out.
Close out the chat.
Yep. Nope. Bye, chat.
There. Okay. Maybe Nia will put up the last.